President Biden had some strong words to describe Russian President Vladimir Putin.
You may remember I got criticized for calling Putin a war criminal. Well, the truth of the matter is so it happened in Vuka. This warrants him. He is a war criminal. But we have to gather the information. We have to continue to provide Ukraine with the weapons they need to continue the fight. And we have to gather all the detail so this can be have a war crime trial.
Let's get more from Bloomberg's White House correspondent Josh Wingrove. And of course, the president there referring to the horrific reports and photos that I think most of us would have seen by now. What follows next in terms of further sanctions?
Well, they're signaling more sanctions are coming this week, in particular on the energy sector. They say they're in talks with European allies on that. You know, a little bit of a I told you so moment from President Biden, who sort of went out of his way to go talk to the press arriving back in Washington earlier this morning here in D.C. And, you know, he wanted to make clear that essentially that they've been calling this right the whole time. And that teed up a statement later in the day from his national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, talking about what they think is the new Russian strategy, namely a pulling out of the Kyiv region and the concentration in the east and the south in Ukraine. So, you know, Joe Biden has been sounding warnings over the course of this. Of course, you know, his current polling doldrums began with the chaotic exit of Afghanistan, and they think, you know, that they've been sort of playing this one. Unfortunately, you know, they've been every sort of fear that they've had has come to pass, and that's why we say that we've seen him reacting like he has to this. But they are cautioning that the actual war crimes process, you know, that takes a long time, years, and no one should be holding their breath for quick action on that, but they clearly think that's where this is going.
What are we hearing from the White House in terms of the trajectory of Russia's offensive in Ukraine?
Yeah, they're calling it a retreat, but in some ways it's a doubling back and an encircling. So in other words, pulling out from Kyiv and more sort of northern and western regions to focus on the Donbass in the east and in the south. And they cautioned this isn't focusing on sort of the initial area that was already claimed in 2014, that this would be an expansion of that. And the downside, of course, is that in some cases you have now Russian troops moving east towards the east, which will, of course, isolate Ukrainian forces in those regions. And they're warning to brace for a long conflict. They don't think this is going to be something that will, you know, go away in a matter of weeks. And so that's sort of I guess you might call it a good news, bad news scenario from the U.S. perspective, where they say Putin's plan has not gone the way they wanted in the U.S. estimation, that he's retreating from the middle of the country, but doubling down on the east and the south.